In the previous scrolling demo, I made it so that when you get to the edge of the screen, the background wraps around. So you get this infinitely looping background. Now that works well, but I mean, you can see that it repeats, right? There's the big hill, there's the big hill, there's the big hill. And you'd remember that from those old style animations that use this technique as well. Now, there's another way we could create backgrounds that look like hills, but that don't ever repeat. And that's by using the noise function. So this is an example of generating a kind of a hill-like shape using noise. And all we're doing here is kind of looping across the width of the canvas and getting a noise value for each X position of the canvas, and then using that to draw a line. So I can do something similar here to generate hills for the background. So that's what I'm going to do in this example. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of my background image. So I'm just going to delete that image. I don't need the preload function anymore. I don't need this background scale function anymore. And I'm going to go back to just using width and height. So we create the puck at width over 2 and height, and then get rid of the scale stuff, and this should be width. I'm just going to put this back the way it was. Get rid of this part, we're not going to need that. Not going to need that part. That should probably work. It might have some errors somewhere. It does have some errors. BG width. I don't think I actually need that. So there we go. Oh, it's not moving to the right properly. Check my puck. Can move right. Can move left. This should be width, not W scale. Okay, so I can move to left and the right, and we can't see it, but the background is kind of moving there. Let's firstly just make a function that generates these hills in the background. So I'm going to go back to my sketch. Whoops. Save the sketch, go back into my sketch.js and create a new function. And the function is going to be called draw hills. And I'm going to say for let I equals 0. I'll call it x because we're kind of going over the x positions. X is less than width, x plus plus. And for each x position, I'm going to get a y based on the noise function. So let y equals noise of x times height. And then I'll just draw a point x, y, just to see that it's working. And we need to call that function, of course, to see it in action. So after I clear the background, I should say draw hills. So you can see all of the dots there. Now that's kind of all over the place, and that's because the noise function, you want to give it very small increments for it to change smoothly. So when I say noise of x, I should probably divide that by something. So I'm going to say noise of x divided by 1,000. Let's see what that gives us. So that's fairly smooth hills. If I divide by 100, they're going to get kind of rougher. Right, so maybe I want to divide by something like 800. It's your choice, really, how far these hills should go. And they're going from all the way, so these hills are going to go from all the way from the bottom all the way to the top of the canvas. And I probably want to change that a little bit. So let me just say, let n equals noise of x divided by 800. And I'll use the map function to turn that into a y value that I like. So map n, which is going to go from 0 to 1. And I want it to go from height times 0.25, so 1/4 of the height to 3/4 of the height. Try that. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Okay, so I'll leave that function as it is for now. I'll come back and improve it a little bit later. But the next puzzle I've got is that when I get to the edge of the screen, I need that background to kind of move to the left or the right. And the way I can do that with the noise function is sort of set an offset for where I sample the noise from. So if I give my draw hills function an argument for noise offset, and then I sample at x plus whatever offset that is, I'll just call it plus offset. So I'll just change the name of the argument to offset. Then when I draw the hills, I can use my bg left variable to set that. That bg left is basically going to do the work for us. Now it's sort of moving the wrong way. So what I probably want to do is subtract the offset. There we go. So you can see as I move to the right, it looks like these hills are kind of moving to the left behind me, and the same as I go to the left. Great. Now let's just draw this background a little bit nicer. Instead of drawing a point at every single x position, I don't really need to do that because these hills aren't all that detailed. So I could probably draw a point at every 10th position and then just draw lines between them. So that'll just make that function a little bit faster. It probably, often these things don't matter too much, but it might matter if we have a very large canvas that we're drawing to. So let's say x plus equals 10, and I'm going to just draw that as a shape. Begin shape and end shape, and I'll leave it open for now. And instead of drawing a point, I'm just going to draw a vertex. And I forgot a bracket there. So there we go. Now it's not quite going all the way to the far right hand side, so I probably want to just, and that's most likely because this canvas just happens to be 479 pixels and I'm kind of going across in increments of 10. So here I can just say x is less than width plus 10. So just make sure I go past the edge of the screen. That's better, and I want to set no fill, so I'll push and pop so I can set my styles without messing other things up. Pop. I'm going to set no fill, and I'll leave the stroke as it is. That's looking good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this shape kind of not just a line, but actually a line that goes across and then down and then across and then back up again. So I'm going to say let x, 1 equals okay, so I'm going to begin my shape, and then I'm going to draw the bottom part. I'm going to go across and then up, and then draw the hills, and then close it to the end. So I'm going to say vertex at width, height, vertex at 0 height, and then it'll go back up to that first X. It'll go all the way across, and then it'll close it by closing back down. So if I say end shape close and turn the fill back on, but I'll fill it with black, we should see that gets filled in. So that's working. Now let's just draw a base plane so we can sort of see that the puck is not just sort of floating in space. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle for that. So I'm just going to say no stroke, fill with like a light grey color. So fill with 70 or 80, something like that. And then just draw a rectangle. Rectangle from 0 height minus 50 to width and then 50 high. Oh, and I must have set my rect mode to be center at some stage. So that's going to need to be rect. Yes, I've set rect mode center, so I need to figure out the center point of this rectangle. So it's going to be width over 2, and it's going to be height minus 25. And the width and the height are going to be the same. That looks better. I might just make the background a little bit darker. Make it into 40, something like that. And let's see what this looks like full screen. Oh, did not work. Did not work. What happened? Let's try the present one. That's interesting. I don't see any reason that shouldn't be working. Let's look at the console. Has everything saved correctly? File, save. Let me reload it. I've been having some problems with the web editor lately, so I'm just going to copy this and reload. Yeah, it looks like it's missed out some, but I just copied it into the clipboard, so I'm just going to paste it back in to the editor and save that. Let's make sure that that has got the changes. Yeah, that's better. So now it should be able to present. So there you go, an infinitely scrolling noise background. And you could go to the right or to the left for this all day long, and you won't see these hills repeating. Now my challenge to you, can you think of a way to use this noise technique to add other things into the landscape, like every now and again there's a little house, or maybe at certain patches that you walk through the weather changes, or maybe you could even have layers of hills where the ones that are further away move slower. That's all possible with this noise technique. I'll leave that to you to think about till next time. Happy creative coding, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with based on this example.